My name is Rebecca Sofer. I am so excited to be here today doing an Instagram Live on the 1-800-Flowers account. I run something that is called Modern Loss, which is an online publication, essentially a movement, a global community in real life, online, that is focused on one thing, and that is helping people move through the experience of grieving and, by extension, the long arc of loss in ways that are communal, of course, that involve commiseration, but that always point toward post-traumatic growth, towards richness, towards resilience, while also acknowledging that, loss is a forever thing. This ride is like ongoing. It takes on different facets throughout the entire experience. And for that, we are there with you. And I have been just so incredibly delighted and moved to be working with 1-800-Flowers over the last few years. They are honestly kind of a dream partner. I'm very earnest about this. They recognized what we were doing very early on. They really appreciated our tone. They appreciated that we approached this conversation in a way that's fresh, that's kind of unapologetic, that alludes to the fact that it's okay to feel like the darker shades of gray as well as the lighter ones. They know we don't deal in platitudes. We will never put a hand on your shoulder and assure you that blanket statement, it's just going to be okay. We try and show you through example and storytelling how it can be okay, and also acknowledge that it's a mixed bag, it's a mess. But within the mess, there's a lot of resilience and a lot of richness. So I just want to thank 1-800-Flowers for being excited to do this series. We are here on our second installment of Light After Loss. It is a monthly series that we are doing on Instagram Live. And it's focused on, really helping people have conversations with various experts and being able to ask them questions and get creative ideas about how to move through loss and how to, move through the different kind of like sneak attacks that it will provide to you along the way in ways that'll really make you feel like you've got like an arsenal in storage that you can pull from. We are recording this. We are going to publish it. So, I want to invite you to please ask questions. We're going to be taking all your questions later on, and I'm just going to jump right into it. So I'm so thrilled that today we are here with Karen Bussin. This afternoon's event is called Nurturing Ourselves Through Memory, Designing Rituals to Create a Beautiful Life. And I think that's a really, I think it's a really germane topic to discuss at any point in time. I think that in particular, it's an important topic to discuss these days because we are on month, 10? Of staying at home, isolation. There have been so many people. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers have probably at least known of somebody who has had to have an online funeral or attend one or go through an anniversary, a trigger day while stuck at home and unable to really access those go-to rites and rituals that we are so used to being able to do. And we've had to get creative about them. And so I'm really delighted that, Karen is with us because she's going to talk to us through kind of supporting ourselves through intentional remembrance at any stage of grief, because we still have these anniversaries and trigger days. It's not just like the immediate after somebody dies that we're kind of faced with remembering them. It's every day for the rest of our lives. And there are really incredibly creative ways in which we can incorporate that memory and the essence of that person and honor the connection that we had with them and that others have had with them in ways that are really rich and kind of feed us and nourish us. And so I'm thrilled that she's here. She is the founder of Farewelling, which I love that. I love that word. It's wonderful. It makes me smile. A women-led company, yes, out to transform funeral and end-of-life planning. Their entire MO at Farewelling is basically, jumping on and extracting those personal details that reflect the individual's values and their style. And, you know, they call it farewelling, and I love it. She's here to talk to you about how you can incorporate some of what they do into your own life. And so, Karen, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so grateful. Your background is a lot better than my background. I'm in, you know,
New York City.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Can you start us off by just telling us, like, tell us a little bit about Farewelling. I mean, it's relatively new.
Yeah.
So, like, why did you feel the need to start it in the first place? There's a lot of funeral directors out there.
Yeah, no, very good question. And in my own life, my background has been for many years in helping people to celebrate other big life events. So I didn't come to it through being in the industry myself. You know, I was very focused on helping people celebrate these other rituals like weddings or birthdays or big anniversaries or other types of events. And through a series of personal experiences myself, and in one particular case, you know, something with my family, I just came to look at this space and to realize that while we have given so much thought and intention around designing beautiful, you know, celebrations or marking moments or rituals for every other aspect of our lives, this is maybe one that could have used a bit more tenderness and even more regard toward beauty, more regard toward modern, you know, design and that sort of thing. So that's what initially got me very interested in it. And then I ended up doing a deep dive and just a lot of research. Initially I was a little concerned because I thought, well, am I really, you know, someone to be able to be in this space, and what's it even like? And as I began to dive in, I became fascinated. Then I met my co-founder, Elizabeth Meyer-Karansky, who is a funeral director. And, you know, the minute that we met.
A super cool one. I know her.
I mean, very,
like,
you know, just
more
amazing.
Stylish than anybody I know.
and one of the most bubbly people you'll ever meet in your life.
Absolutely.
And when I met her, I just realized that, wow, okay, there are people in this space who are, you know, trying to be a part of something that will allow us to incorporate this essential part of our human experience into our lives, as opposed to just kind of sweeping it under the rug or feeling alone. And that's what led to starting Farewelling. And you're right, we're just a year old now.
Wow.
Learning a lot.
A year old.
Yeah.
So you started this like
3 months. 3 months before.
Before COVID.
Exactly.
So tell me, you know, I have so many questions for you, but what was that like? What you felt like you had, you know, this whole plan, you were going to be mindful and creative and take time with things. What was that like those first few months? What were you faced with clients?
I mean, in the very beginning, you know, we were just very excited to be a part of a movement that, you know, we were not the ones to start. You are, of course, one of those pioneers, and others in the space have been working on it for years. And then we came in thinking, okay, we can approach this from our areas of expertise as well. And so we were just super excited. And then, of course, when everything happened, you know, it was just like, how can we help? And we did set up like a national helpline to just try to connect people with the resources that they needed, because, you know, certainly death is always a place where you need help, but it was just more so than ever this year, and people wanting to figure out what they could even do to navigate these events and these rituals now that they couldn't even gather together. So it was, a big learning curve for us, and just kind of trying to scramble and be like, how can we be helpful? And that's pretty much what we've spent. We've spent the year becoming experts in how to do virtual memorials and how to incorporate in real life and virtual, you know, type of things, how to infuse those celebrations with meaning, looking at the extra sadness that there is, because we're not just experiencing the grief of loss of people, we're also experiencing loss in all of our areas of life, you know, at this point.
This is certainly a year of loss for everyone in the world. And I think that, you know, these go-to rites, you know, and rituals that we have come to see as automatic are now seen almost like a luxury. Like the thought of actually being able to attend a funeral in person is like nearly, it's like I can't even imagine it right now, because like I don't see anybody except for my children and my husband and my dog. And, you know, I think that, you know, just to go back to what you said about like, you know, did you have any right, or like, where did you fit into this world? You're not, an expert, you don't have a degree. That doesn't matter. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't have any letters after my name. Well, I have an MS in journalism from Columbia University. But I started Modern Loss out of a personal experience, which was the fact that my mother died in a car accident when I was 30, and my father died when I was 34, and I was left parentless by that age. It wasn't my plan, and it became very clear to me that loss is a very isolating thing, that we're typically surrounded by a lot of people who, don't really have the language, the comfortable language to talk about it, and pull each other through it in ways that didn't, kind of center on platitudes or like go to like really like religious, beliefs or just really clinical explanations. And so Modern Loss really came out of this desire to storytell and share our stories in ways that are like really warm and really vulnerable and really just pull people together, pull each other together, and pull each other through this mess. And so, I think it's wonderful that you're coming from Weddings and Celebrations, because we have published so many stories and gotten so many pitches over the years by people who write about the fact that they actually have come to appreciate funerals more than weddings, because it's like this very weighty and almost like, I want to say, holy task that you have of what is a life, like a wedding is wonderful because it's full of the hope for the future, and a funeral or a eulogy or a ritual, right? A memory, a remembrance ceremony is like, it's like a bottomless pot of coffee in terms of creativity, in terms of like the opportunities for depth and humor and meaning. And, for me, it's just like, as like a writer, it's just like, wow, there's so much to work with there. And like, just such a wonderful way, like to pass along the memory of somebody to other people who you would like to remember that person with. And
one thing I wanted to say just about your site and what we are trying to do with ours as well is just that voice. That voice, because one of the things I found when I came into this space, and this was before I had encountered Modern Loss, for example, and a few other writers, was that, there's this sort of old-fashioned language around death and dying that is very formal. Sometimes it's very sort of passive. It uses a lot of vocabulary that is not in our normal, the bereaved or the deceased or all these sort of, so I think that just that nature of trying to bring the language into a place of more like how we actually speak to each other, how we interact, is something that's very important. It's because language, is so central to the events of our lives, and it helps us to really be able to express it in ways that we can all share. So for me, it's one of the core things that we're trying to do at Farewelling.
Yeah, and it also makes the experience like a little bit more inviting, a little less scary to people. When I just love that your endeavor is called Farewelling, because it doesn't sound so ominous. It really sounds like, oh, like what's farewelling? Like that's like I'd like it just feels. I just feel like the more we can normalize this type of conversation, the more we're gonna allow more people to meaningfully experience and remembering people, because they're not going to be so scared to touch the topic. And that's what we want people to do, because the more you can realize that your relationship with somebody still continues even after they die. And it's like, that's something you can really plumb for events and rituals. And
it's not in any way minimizing the actual sadness and the darkness that is there. In a way, it's embracing it even more, because it's bringing it into our lives instead of just, I don't want to look at that, or I don't want to think about that. I don't want to talk about that with the people in my life. It's saying like, let's embrace. It's a universal experience that we all have. And one of the craziest things when I first started Farewelling is that we had a little desk inside a big office of the people who were developing our website. And as soon as they heard about Farewelling, I didn't know any of these people. They would start coming over to me at the kitchen island, complete strangers, and just telling me, hey, I lost my mom when I was 11 years old, and I don't talk about it much or whatever. And I just realized that there's this sort of veil that exists in our world where just in polite conversation, you don't bring it up. But as soon as people know that there is a space there, those stories come out, those memories come out, and the sharing begins. And that's what, is so wonderful.
Yep. I agree. So I have a bunch of questions for
Okay,
you.
great.
And I just want to remind everybody, I pinned the comment below for anyone who's recently joined. We are speaking with Karen Bussin. She is the founder of Farewelling. It is essentially like an endeavor that helps people create meaningful rituals to remember people along the way who we have lost in ways that are really warm, really creative, and, can be really communal. And, she just has a lot of tricks up her sleeve. And I was wondering, also please feel free to ask your questions. I'm going to be addressing them in about 15, 20 minutes. So I would love to start about how, right now, like, let's be honest, it is more difficult to celebrate people we love who have died. And I do use the term died because we're pretty open at Modern Loss. We kind of call it what it is. I think it's more difficult to celebrate people these days because we can't really easily gather in the way that we'd like. I'm not just talking about funerals. I'm talking about the fact that in December, it was the 10th anniversary of my father's death. And it was December 17th and it got dark at like 2 p.m. here where I am in Massachusetts. And I was like, normally I would have done something. I would have gone to see a Gilbert and Sullivan show because he loved that. I would have gone to eat something. I would have gone to Costco and gotten a hot dog and the $1.99 whatever hot dog and soda special because he loved that. And I would have done all those rituals. I can't do that right now. I literally I can do hardly anything. And so I think it makes these more personal rituals, difficult, but then it makes it kind of necessitates creativity in coming up with new ones to honor people we've lost and also honor ourselves, because it's not just I feel like we have this pressure to I have to remember my dad on the day he died, or my partner's death, any loss that you've had, but it's all just as much for you as it is for them, for the feeling that you're honoring them. It's supposed to feed you. It's supposed to pull you close to their memory and make you feel close to them. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so to your point, right now is a time when just when ritual and community and a feeling of, not being isolated is more important than ever, we actually are living with the very opposite of that. And so, what I would say about ritual in general is that it is there to provide comfort. And the thing that separates it from just an activity where you just do something or read something or write something or, whatever the activity may be is the purposefulness and the thoughtfulness, the intention behind creating this thing. So the key now is that word that you used, which is the creativity. Since we can't just do not everything is available to us. In fact, almost nothing is available to us. So we have to find those ways.
Very few things.
For ourselves. And so I suggest that rather than thinking, I got to do this or I got to do that, you start to discover what you need to do right now or what you want to do right now for yourself. Because if you start with yourself, first of all, that person would probably want you to do that. And second of all, when you start with yourself, then you're able to sort of create that space where you can almost come up with a structure for whatever that ritual is going to be, right? And that could be anything. If you literally are not comfortable seeing anyone else or can't because you want to social distance, that is perfectly understandable. But maybe you can think about, okay, what do I need right now? Do I need comfort? Do I need a release of some sort? Do I need peace? Do I need community? And whatever you determine as that thing that you need right now, and by the way, on your grief journey, wherever you may be right now, you may not be having just experienced a loss. You may be years out from your loss. And the point is to look at where you are. What waypoint are you at right now? And what do you need right now? And those rituals that you design are going to change over time. You may do them once. You may do them 10 times. And so I know I'll just give an example.
Yeah, I would love that.
One of the most difficult losses that I experienced was of my dog, my beloved dog. And it really threw me for a loop. Yeah, thank you. It's many years ago now. But I remember we would always go to the river. She always loved to go to the river, and she had become very ill. And one day she just pulled me out of our apartment, and she literally pulled me so forcefully to the river. And it was the weirdest thing I've seen. So we go, she lays down, we relax, and that night she died. And then, so I found that space to be a place of meaning for me, right? Just myself, not really in community or anything, but I would go there. And then every year I created a ritual. I love flowers. So I would make a little willow wreath and put some peonies in it. And on the anniversary of her dying, I would release that wreath into the water. And, so thinking about it as something I could do just by myself, that is not just a way of honoring her or remembering her, but it's also a release. So I think when you think about ritual now, to think of it as a transition. That's what rituals are for. They establish us together or even within our own selves, and they allow us to both mark something with meaning and then to open up to moving forward. And so I think, right now it's a matter of determining what do you need and how can you make that work within the world that we're operating now, whether that's something you do alone or in a small group with your family, whether it's something you do out in nature. Recently I was thinking about the idea of a kind of a living memorial in nature that is socially distant, where, in your community, you go somewhere, a park, a trail, your backyard, and you set up something, whatever it may be, or you create a structure of some sort. Maybe it's just a place with some, greenery or flowers or something, and you invite people to come to that place on their own time in a socially distant way, and they leave something. You could determine what that thing is, or you could let them bring whatever they want, because it is true that within ritual, as it relates to community, that there is an aspect of structure. Every ritual must have a structure, but there's also this idea of spontaneity or personal, what each person contributes to it. So something like that is a way that while you can't all gather together in close quarters, you could discover something by visiting that space daily or weekly or whatever it may be, and see what has been left there, knowing that that's an ephemeral kind of thing,
right? But
still it's a place,
I love that. And by extension, I've heard of some people, and I've heard this advice given that, like, if you can't gather with people, of course, if we're remembering someone with other people who are located all over the country, or even like 3 towns away, and because the pandemic is spiking, we don't feel comfortable getting together. I have heard of people who are doing these rituals out in nature in their backyards, in the park alone, and then they're taking pictures. Or they're like all getting together on like a live stream and they're sharing it. And then you can experience all of that. You're not even, look, I'm not going to lie and say that in real life is not like incredibly exponentially more satisfying, being able to hug people and, laugh and remember and feel people's energy in the room when you're remembering somebody. But right now, this kind of is what it is. And we're working with what we've got.
It's true. But I will also tell you that just having attended and been involved with so many virtual memorials, or, that hybrid kind of thing where a tiny little group of people is there in person and the others are joining from all over the world, there is still a lot of incredible power in that space, because again, it's like, that's the space. You feel the energy when you see the faces of people who are joining, or, so no, it's not ideal. But again, when you think about even that space, even the virtual space, with a thoughtfulness and a creativity in advance, what can we do to make sure that everyone remotely around the world who's watching, maybe from their apartment where they live by themselves, could feel like they're participating? Could it be a word that they contribute that makes them think of the person? And could that even be in a chat where there's just words just flowing up? Could it be in something they do? Everyone lights a candle online. Whatever that may be, that ritual and community, and even that intensity of.
Agreed. I mean, I was, I'm not saying that, I actually have been kind of amazed at how the virtual world has really risen to the occasion of what we've been faced with over the last year. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think anything can replace an actual hug.
Agreed.
But we have gotten a lot better. And I think that there have been a lot of digital, endeavors that have really laid the groundwork to catch us with what we've had to deal with over the last year. And I personally, I attended a YouTube funeral last month in December. One of my friends died from cancer. She was 44. And I was like, a YouTube funeral? Well, it amazing. It was beautiful. The rabbi who officiated, like we were all in tears. I mean, we were in tears because we were also sad, but it was just so incredibly moving.
Yeah.
She managed to incorporate music. There was a live chat that I've never had at any in real life funeral where people were like commenting in real time saying, oh my gosh, wasn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Do you remember when she did this? Like, do you remember when our friend did this? And it was incredibly communal feeling. Like, and it just really was, to the point where when I closed my laptop, I was surprised to realize that I was in my room alone, because it really felt like I was in a community.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it's one of the things that we are working on at Farewelling right now, having taken all this experience that we've had over the past, almost year now, and working with partners to be able to create that, to be able to, create something that is better than just a Zoom, meeting or whatever, because this is an event that, just like you don't want people just videoing your wedding with their iPhone, that's not you want those memories, but you also maybe want something that's like a better experience there. So we're actively building that now, and we hope to have something to offer later this year.
Oh, that's great. So now, like, going beyond events like funerals, which normally happen, shortly after a death, at different points along the way, you're going to need different rituals.
Yes.
There are going to be anniversaries of different things, of the day they died. They're going to be their birthdays, your anniversary of your wedding anniversary with them, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all of these days that are both, of course, in the calendar and loom and you can plan for, but then days where you just, I call it the sneak attacks, where the loss kind of just taps you on the shoulder and says, I know it's been 4 years. By the way, I'm still here. And you might need to have something to, like, pull out of your pocket and do for yourself. And so I would love to talk about how to kind of tease out and discover what you need right now, and how these rituals can evolve over time as your relationship with grief and memory evolves and your needs.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's just the most important thing is when you are designing a ritual for yourself, it's sort of like a world of things that you could possibly do, but what do you need to do right now? What's the intention? What's the result that you would like, for that? And then knowing that, that you can put it together in many different ways. So you could create a ritual for yourself that you plan to repeat whenever you have a moment of anxiety, for example, or when you feel that tap on the shoulder. You could kind of creatively design something that you think is a true comfort to you, that you can always go to that thing. Doesn't mean you're not going to be sad, doesn't mean you're not going to be anxious, but it's like your go-to. So whether that is an object, that you would hold and just kind of sit quietly and do some breathing, whether it's a particular song that you could listen to or a playlist or something like that. So you could sort of pre-design something that's sort of a go-to for when I get blindsided. And I think that's not a bad idea to just have that in your back pocket, to be like, I can go to this thing. And then, for other times, like I do think, I'm sure you find this as well, there are certain days or holidays or whatever that you can almost anticipate are going to be worse for you, because the experience you shared with that person, maybe like at the holidays, was just so incredible. They were always really into it, and you just always had, like, such a great time. Or whether it is a Father's Day, Mother's Day, or a Valentine's Day, or, I mean, it depends on who you've lost and what your experience was. So I think the thing is to look at, okay, number one, what do I need? Number two, how can I design a sort of, it's hard to use the word theme, but almost a theme around that, and then what I like to say is that, again, what makes a ritual different from just an activity is that thoughtfulness and that intention that goes into planning it, even if it's a short moment. It's how you think about it. A ritual is defined as something that happens in sort of a prescribed order, and often in a repeated way, but not necessarily. So if you think about religious rituals, they follow a pattern, and they're there to kind of validate belief and help us to mark a moment. So if you think about that just in terms of your own practice, not necessarily religious or even spiritual, but how can you put together a series of elements that will create meaning for you? And I say, okay, look at a few different things. Look at objects, because objects have meaning in our life, whether that is, it could be a stone, it could be a shell, it could be a picture, it could be a stuffed animal, it could be, it could be literally anything, it could be a toy.
It could literally be.
It could literally be. It could be a book.
I can't say the word here on an Instagram live, but my go-to object for my mom is a glycerin bar of soap that has an expletive suspended in it because someone gave it to her for a holiday once, and she got such a kick out of it. She just laughed. She thought she had the best sense of humor. And to this day, I keep it in my medicine cabinet. Like I think its half-life is like 5,000 years. So like,
I love it.
It can be any object. I can tell you that from personal experience.
And so, then it is creating a space, right? Like creating a space where this ritual is going to happen. Is it in your home? Is it outside? Is it at, where is it? Where is this thing happening? Again, could be anywhere. And then it's also thinking about your senses, right? Because ritual is sort of trying to conjure a different sort of, I don't want to say like a level of being, but you want to put yourself into a slightly different frame of mind. So it could be a sense of smell, it could be a scented candle, it could be music that you play, it could be music that you listen to, it could be music that other people create, whatever that could be for you. And then, thinking about that intention and whether or not you want this ritual to be just for you or whether you want it to be in some sort of community, small or large. If you get those elements together, then, you are in a really good place to start to actually make an event, small or large, Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the way to approach it, not just like, I got to do something to honor this person. And I mean, hey, if you want to honor them by eating their favorite food, maybe you can get that as takeout now. And maybe you can go to a special place and eat it if you can't eat it in the restaurant that they loved. Maybe you can cook it. Maybe you can make a rendition of it or share recipes with other people who are also kind of feeling that same need right now. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can take what you would normally do and just tweak it a little bit given the circumstances and kind of find a new way to express that very same thing you've always done.
My favorite one that my friend Amanda, her father died when we were in college, and his name was Dave, and he loved a Big Mac. He just loved it. And so every year on his birthday, she has the annual Dave Johns Big Mac Day, and she invites and he loved an old fashioned. And so she says, please celebrate this with me. Please go out and get a Big Mac or get something really decadent, like get something just really bad for you, enjoy a drink, and just do it in honor of Dave. And it's every day. It's called the Dave Johns Memorial Big Mac Day. And I just love it so much. I look forward to it. And I've never met her dad. And I feel like Dave and I have a relationship now for the last 16 years. I mean, he doesn't realize it.
Exactly. And what I love about that too is that sense that ritual does not have to be solemn.
Right.
It does not have to be sad necessarily, although of course there's poignancy there and there's like love for her dad and, and your love for your friend, but it can take many forms. And there may come a time too when it's just that even that ritual has just a different feeling or meaning for you, depending, again, where you are in that journey.
It's like the most important thing, like we say at Modern Loss, is like you fly your flag. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, do whatever feels right to you. Do whatever resonates with you. And like, that's exactly right, Karen. It's really just about checking in with yourself. What are your needs? Are you feeling the need to have like a deeper, kind of more solemn connection ritual right now? Or do you want to get a Big Mac?
Exactly. And I mean, to know also that the grief journey is not a linear journey. You don't just flow from here to here and then you made progress and you keep going, and no, it's not like you could do 10 reps last week and now you want to do 20. It doesn't work like that. You may go all the way back, you may go sideways, and just kind of I think what ritual does is it helps us come back to ourselves. It creates a moment for us to think and reflect and feel. And another thing that is so profound about creating, rituals is this idea that it gives people, yourself and others, a chance to express themselves in ways that in like polite society, they may not ever do. I mean, let's say you have a circle, a prayer circle or a talking circle or whatever it may be. And you have a stone or a stick or something and you pass it around and you let people speak. People are not going to come up to you and say the same thing that they would say when they're holding that stone. Giving them the stone gives them, it's a structure, and yet in a way that structure is so freeing.
Right.
So I think that's just another thing that's so beautiful about what ritual offers us in our lives.
I'm a big ritual person. I mean, like, if I could make everybody develop a meaningful ritual, I would. And like, I really hope that the people who see this are getting some good ideas, because let me tell you, ritual is so powerful.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's sanity saving. It's the thing that we can grab onto when we feel like everything is like just being taken out of our grasp. And it's something that we develop, and it's a structure.
Yes.
Like you said, it's a structure. Like religious rituals, like, you know what's coming. I mean, I'm Jewish. I'm a cultural Jew. I went to Hebrew school. Like, I know the prayers. I don't know what they exactly. Instagram Live. Anyway, I want to take some questions because we have a bunch coming in. I want to remind everybody, we're talking to Karen Bussin. She's the founder of Farewelling. I'm Rebecca Sofer. I run Modern Loss, all things, you know, conversation on grief and the long arc of loss, resilience, and post-traumatic growth. And so, Karen, in a couple of minutes, I do want to address some of these questions, but I just have a couple more for you. What if sometimes you just need catharsis? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but I read about a storefront in Japan where I still to this day don't have any empirical proof that it actually exists. But I read about a storefront where they sell just like plain ceramic plates, and you can hurl them against the wall. Like, that's actually how they make money. They sell you a plate, you hurl it against the wall, and you feel you got a release. Let's be honest. What happens when you just need to like tear something up?
Well, I'm like, first of all, why don't we have that in New York City? Or do we? And I just don't know about it. I need to find out.
I mean,
it's amazing.
New York has everything. Let's just like make it our mission to discover that and tell everybody.
So the thing is that sometimes, you know, you just need to be angry, right? You just need to get that release out there, or you need to cry. And of course, anger is often just, it's the sort of outward expression of pain and hurt. And so I am all for doing anything you can do, as you just said earlier, without hurting yourself or hurting someone else.
Right.
If you need to destroy something, if you need to tear something down, if you need to set it on fire, whatever it may be, I think, you know, invoking the elements can be a good way to do that too. Like whether it is taking time to write something, put it on the fire and burn it. And then I read recently that Yoko Ono suggests after burning it, you know, taking a negative thought, writing it down, putting it in the flames and burning it, creating ashes out of it, and then taking like a beautiful essential oil and mixing it, you know, into those ashes and turning it, you know what I mean? So you're
Yoko.
lifting, I know, she's
always
so brilliant.
full of death.
But so the idea is, if you just need to go out and go on a run and howl, the point again that I would say is to do it thoughtfully and intentionally. I mean, you can't always. Sometimes you just need to scream in your car. But this is if you want to, haven't we all? But if you want to mark that experience, to say, okay, I'm about to go out for a run. I'm going to go to this place, and I'm just going to go there, and I'm going to see what happens, or I'm going to scream or whatever. And you just say whatever you have to say. If it is also a matter of, again, creating a circle. I've heard of this, especially for families who may have, you know, difficulties. I mean, when I say families who may have difficulties, all families have difficulties, but like the idea of kind of taking a moment to talk about or to release the things that worry or anger or upset us, you know, in relation to this experience can be great, where everyone just goes around and you just shout it out.
Right. Because it's not, I mean, sorry, again, like you and I wouldn't be doing the work we do if we felt like the work had, you know, the way in which it had been done up until the moment that we started doing it, you know, had covered everything. And you and I are big fans of transparency and, you know, also admitting to the fact that like not all memories are perfect. Like grief is complicated because human beings are fallible, and we're mourning very imperfect people, and that's okay.
I mean, I think that that is truly one of the greatest gifts you could give yourself, is whoever you have lost, if you had a conflict or if things were unresolved or whatever it may be, is to try to just see that person as a human. Flawed, you know, you may have them up on a pedestal for whatever reason or think they should have been perfect. And the more you can see their humanity and that we're all just, you know, flawed people trying to do what we can do, the more that can help. But sometimes you also have to yell at them, and that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like the more that you remember that they were human and fallible, actually, to me, the more it frees up memories that can actually be quite fun and healing. Like when I remembered that my dad was so incredibly stubborn that, like he literally capsized not one, but multiple small boats that we owned throughout my childhood.
Oh my gosh.
And just like the memory of that, of him being so stubborn, and then just like us screaming at him to like, be careful. And then we ended up on a rock somewhere. And just like funny because, whenever I go camping in the lake in which this happened, I always remember, I'm like, this one's for you, Dad. Like, I'm not going to crash, like in your memory, I'm going to like have a safe boat ride. So yeah, like I think that we actually have had a lot of questions come in. I would like to turn to them. I would, however, like to ask one question that, I think that people don't talk about enough, and that at Modern Loss, we are very adamant about shining a light on it. It is maternal fertility related loss. We have a lot of readers, 1 in 4 women experience a miscarriage. Yes. So many experience stillbirth and don't talk about it because these types of losses are still known as the silent sorrow. I think we're doing a better job at starting to talk about them, but still we have to feel brave enough to do so, and that is not okay. I want everybody to feel like this can be a topic that we broach in conversation with our friends. And so I think that there are a lot of families, women and partners who really do suffer in silence and struggle to create a ritual for somebody who either they never even got to meet, and they just have their hopes and dreams for them, or they met briefly and never got to really grow a relationship with them. And so I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit about ideas for what people can do there.
Yeah, I think that I cannot think of a more difficult type of loss, and I know that every type of loss is extremely difficult, but it's not what we think of as being in the natural order of things. And so again, I think that what I would say is probably maybe the way that I would approach looking at that again is to honor that the life of that human being as it was, like to celebrate that life was, there for whatever amount of time it was, and to try to create something personal that will offer you comfort. Again, thinking about what it is that you need. So whether that is I read recently about an amazing photographer. I believe they're in Europe. I can't remember the name, but for parents who have lost a baby during the birthing process, they actually offer a service to create a portrait of not, necessarily anything that is negative, but to take a beautiful photo of their hand or their foot or something like that, so that the parents have something to hold on to, and that can become an anchoring point for, a ritual or a remembrance of that child. For those who didn't ever get to meet their baby, I think it's a matter of, I don't know, I'm not an expert on this area of grief, but it's a matter of finding something beautiful, whether it's a flower that you honor them with, or it's a song or a poem, or it's a moment that you create, on a particular day that you assign. I think it's extremely important. And I also think it's important to talk about it, and to not let it be that shameful secret, that you failed in any way. No, this is just something that happens. And I think that the most important key is to focus on honoring and offering love, and, offering any gratitude that you can find, even in the midst of great pain.
And if you can't, that's okay too.
That's true.
That's grief, right?
Yes.
Especially with regard to, miscarriage and stillbirth and infant loss, that, it's just such a specifically excruciating type of loss that, and I'm just reluctant.
I'm reluctant to say, oh, you should just get involved with an organization, or you should do this, because, that feels like platitudes to me. And so I think it just comes back to whatever feels right to you. It could be something like that. It could be creating something in their memory, in their honor. I think that can be, very powerful as well, but it's truly personal.
So let's turn to some questions for the
Okay.
time that we have left. So many have come in. I'm reading off my computer over here.
Okay.
So first, are there any tips on how I can help my friends when they're dealing with the anniversary of a close personal loss? I love that question because oftentimes it feels like the onus is on us, the grievers, to figure out the plan. And I
Yeah.
love that. You're a really good friend. Thank you for thinking of that. So Karen, how do we rope our support system, or how do we kind of encourage people who love people who are bracing themselves for these days to kind of just jump in and get creative and offer support?
I think that's an amazing question, because I do think that part of what is so hard about grief is just what you just said. We sometimes feel like it's hours and hours alone. We don't want to bother people with it, right? We don't want to bother anyone. We don't want to make them sad. So we're not going to talk about our own grief. But I think so. Number one, the fact is people need to know. If hopefully your friends are familiar with the anniversary, but who knows when they came into your life, or so if they don't know, then share with them. Tell them, hey, I'm trying to think of something. You can even be like, I'm trying to think of something fun to do. My dad really liked sports, or but I'd like to do it with a few friends this year. I just find sometimes I get sad, and I'd like to come up with something. And if you are the friend and you know when the anniversary is, then I think reaching out and just offering. You don't necessarily have to have a plan right off the bat, but like, hey, I know the anniversary of your dad dying is coming up, and I was thinking about, like, it'd be really great if we could do something as a group. A few of your friends also want us to do something. So what do you think? Let's talk about it, and just kind of open up the topic. And I guarantee you that person will probably be like, oh my God, that's so wonderful of you. And if they're like, well, no,
Right.
I need my space this year. I'm not ready for that. Then that's something that you honor
Right.
as well.
Exactly.
And
the most important thing is to bring it up. If you're aware of it, to bring it up. No, and no one is ever going to be insulted
No.
that you offered to help and that you made it clear that you're thinking about them.
And
and it doesn't mean that they won't accept your offer next year.
Exactly. And I could say another thing is, even if they don't accept your offer this year, you could always do something yourself that doesn't involve asking that person who's grieving to do something or take an action. You could make a donation to something, that was important to them or important to your friend. For example, you could buy a candle and just drop it off at their doorstep. You can send them a little care package with a sweet note and no expectations. There's a million things you can do as a friend if that invitation is not, quite right now. And I think it's that thoughtfulness.
I love that.
That is so important. It is important, I think, also to think about if someone is right in the beginning of their grief journey, maybe if you're going to go the gift route or dropping something off for them, give them something that doesn't require them to necessarily do anything. Like, just send them something that's easy and nothing bad is going to happen if they leave it for a little while.
Right.
So you know what I mean? So,
yep. I somebody who received a lot of perishable items.
Yeah.
I appreciate that piece of advice. So, listen, this is 1-800-Flowers. You can literally never go wrong with flowers. I'm talking about, yes. I received a lot of food that was going to expire within a 36-hour period of time.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm one human person, so I just wasn't able to eat all of it. I'm a big fan of gift cards, by the way, of Seamless, of food gift cards. It allows people to really take care of themselves and make decisions about what they need without making too many overwhelming decisions.
Yes.
So let's go to another one. This is interesting. I don't even know the answer for this. Is it appropriate to still send a condolence gift to the funeral home if the service is virtual? Or I would assume by extension, send a gift to that person. I would say, yeah. When is it, it's always appropriate, right?
Always. Yes, always. And, even if it's a very, very small service that's happening there, funeral directors have done a great job over this past year in adapting, and they know that what they do is even more important now, and they will absolutely accept that gift on behalf of the family and make sure that they get it. So I wouldn't let that stop you, at all.
I just love that there are so many people who want to provide support who are on here today.
I know, it's amazing.
It gives me faith in humanity. Thank
It's
you.
true.
Okay, so let's see. I have found two rituals that have helped me: sharing stories of my loved ones and looking through old photos. I find it comforting to see and hear these memories. And she asks, or he, any other helpful tips? And I love that. I also, I think that sometimes looking at pictures and videos feels very comforting, and other times it feels like sad and a reminder. It literally depends on which way the wind is blowing sometimes.
Exactly.
So yeah, what other tips do you have? These are easy rituals. These are daily accessible practices.
No, absolutely. And, there are lots of ways that you could kind of encourage that, even if it's not sort of, when you talk about like listening to stories or telling stories, you could also reach out to friends and say, hey, listen, I've got this, the anniversary is coming up, and I'd really love it if everyone could record a short video that we're going to put together to share with everyone for the whole group, because that's, something that was so important to this person, and we all loved, him or her, and they did have a great sense of humor. I think that's great. I definitely think that cooking or sharing recipes, doing activities that the person loved, and I know, we talk a lot about doing these sort of active remembrances of, like, someone was a runner, maybe you do a little group run together or something, but I think that pictures and stories are absolutely something you can return to time and time again. Music
Yes.
that they loved.
Absolutely. Movies. TV.
Yeah, like you said, exactly.
Me, my go-to is Take a Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed. That was one of my mom's favorite songs. And whenever I really need to feel her, when I'm cooking, I put it on. And whenever I really need to feel close to my dad, I'll watch History of the World Part 1. Mel Brooks.
Love it. I love it.
And, it helps.
Yeah.
And I think also, just by extension, inviting other people to be a part of that experience. And using technology, Netflix has watch parties. You can literally invite a group of people to if it were hey, I'm just thinking of an example, my mom loved, who knows, Terms of Endearment. Let's have a Facebook watch party and let's all watch it at the same time. And people can comment. It's kind of like that YouTube funeral. It's a live experience. And I think that that's something that people don't even know exists for the most part.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you mentioned your friend's dad, Dave, who liked an old fashioned, right? So you could also, if you're doing this watch party, you could add an extra layer to that and be like, everyone make this person's favorite signature cocktail or mocktail or whatever it may be.
I love that. That's a great idea.
It's like a drawing together. The more things you can be doing in community, or let's all go to get this takeout food. We can't be together to eat these Big Macs this year, but let's all go get a Big Mac, get on a watch party, make the old fashioned and hang out.
Or just get a bit, are you all on Instagram? I know I am. That's why I'm talking to you. Get a Big Mac. Post it.
Yeah.
Tag, create a hashtag, And again, of course, these are very modern digital ideas, but this is what we have right now. And so we are harnessing them in ways that are really creative, and they can be shockingly impactful. So we have we have a few minutes left. Here, let's see. We got so many. Good on you guys. Let's see, I found two rituals. I'm just looking here. Oh, do you have any tips for rituals for young children who have lost a sibling? That's an excellent question.
Yeah, I think one thing that can be very, very helpful in terms of young people is that idea of either making something, I don't want to say arts and crafts, but a project that they can make in honor of their sibling is a wonderful thing to do together, whether that's using paints or other materials. I think reading their favorite stories together can be great. And I think that even going to some of their favorite places or taking a moment to mark, I think the most important thing is not to minimize the understanding of a young child. And they may be also going through different stages where in the beginning they sort of don't realize exactly what's gone on. And so you may have to take that into account. But that as their grief journey, goes along. There's a foundation here that we have done some work with, called Cope, and they specialize in helping families, and they offer, for example, a summer camp for kids who have lost a sibling to come together in community as well. And so I do think it's important to discover what would be like the right thing there for, for your family.
I love the idea of the book. We have actually a piece on modern loss written by a children's book author about how to do a book project with a child, because just because kids like look resilient or whatever, people are like, kids are so resilient. Well, they grieve, and they grieve at the level at which they can grieve. And that grief evolves as they mature through life, and they experience it in different ways and realize different things and contend with different aspects of it. And so this,
or even writing a letter to their sibling.
Letter writing. I mean, and it also gives, it gives you the grown-up control over the, over the structure of it, but then it creates enough creativity for the child to really fill in within that window. Like, you don't know what's going to come out in the book, and it really might be like things that surprise you. And I think that's a wonderful practice.
It could also be something where if you are, if there is a particular ritual, whether it is within your religion or whether it is in your own daily practice, if it's a yoga practice or if you're going to light a candle, involve the children. If you're going to make that special recipe, let them help you and say, hey, we're doing this, together. And so include them, let them hold something, let them participate, let them be a part of it. I think that's, as opposed to thinking they can't handle it, they're too young, I don't want them, to know. Because I think that's part of the problem with our society, is that we don't invite this experience into our world. And the more we can, the better off we'll all be.
Exactly. And then you're really, to be honest, helping the next generation, because you're modeling healthy, healthy grief, healthy expressions of grief and remembrance for others. And they're just going to learn by example. And that is the way that you move the needle on something that is still, very unfortunately, for a reason that I don't understand, a stigma. But I think it is becoming less so, because there are more and more of us who are willing to talk about it very openly and creatively.
It's very much like mental health, used to be a very taboo topic, and now there's a lot more openness about it. And I know we're on our way there with this part of our, human experience too. So, So we have, wow. I mean, I just realized the hour has flown by.
It is nearly 2:00. If you can't tell, I could talk about this forever. And I kind of do every day, as do you. But Karen, thank you so much for taking time from your day to speak to us today about this. I really I think you're so thoughtful, and clearly, people are drawn to this work because they're drawn to it, they're called to it. And clearly you were, and thank you so much for the work that you are doing in the world. Can you tell people how they can find you?
Sure. So if you would like to join us on Instagram, we're at myfarewelling. And online at myfarewelling.com. We'd love to have you. Everyone is welcome.
Great. And I am Rebecca Soffer. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am the co-founder of Modern Loss. You can find us at Modern Loss on Instagram. We're kind of everywhere to join our community. But overwhelmingly and primarily, a thank you to 1-800-Flowers for this opportunity to lead this Light After Loss series. I think it is just incredible that an organization that, you would think is viscerally focused on happy, joy. They recognize that life is not black and white. It's full of a lot of different shades. And the more that you feel like you can honor the shades that are a little bit darker, then the more light you can, I'm sorry to use this metaphor, but really the richer that your life is probably going to feel, because you're going to feel like you're pulling it into your present and into your future. And I just love that they acknowledge this. No one is served well by feeling like part of their story is being ignored. And the more you feel like you're being invited into a conversation, part of which might be uncomfortable, the more you're going to feel seen and feel like you can move through what you're moving through. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, 1-800-Flowers. Thank you to everybody who joined. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. And this is when I close out and see if I have figured out how to do this correctly.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.